Subscribe now. EU debates.
We see now that since almost 3 months, Russia is waging a brutal war against Ukraine, and it threatens all those that support Ukraine in its legitimate defense against this aggressor. Putin's war poses fundamental challenges to our union, and thus today we had a huge package in the College of Commissioners that was dealing with the topics that emerge because of this war. For example, today it was on this energy security of supply. It was a big file on defense, and we were dealing with a big file on the support for our neighbor Ukraine. And this I want to report here. First, on the energy topic. Putin's war is, as we all see, heavily disrupting the global energy market. It shows on one hand how dependent we are on imported fossil fuels, but it also shows how vulnerable we are on relying on Russia for importing our fossil fuels, and therefore we must now reduce our, as soon as possible, our dependency on Russian fossil fuels. I'm deeply convinced we can, and thus today we presented our plan to realize these objectives, the plan that we call REPowerEU. If you look at what has been done already, this shows that is a process going on. We have phased out of coal. Or if you look at the gas, last year 40% of the imported gas was imported from Russia to the European Union. This year already in April we were down to 26%. So it's going in the right direction, but we have to accelerate. And with REPowerEU, we show that we can replace Russian fossil fuels by working on 3 levels. The first level is on the demand side. That is saving energy. Sounds simple, is simple, but very effective. Then on the supply side, it's of course diversifying away from Russia for fossil fuels and towards other reliable, trustworthy suppliers. And the most important part, accelerating the clean energy transition, so massive investment in renewable energy. Fortunately, we do have already the foundation for doing this in place, because we have, as you know, already embarked on a transformation of our energy system to become climate neutral. This is the famous European Green Deal. And this European Green Deal and Fit for 55 was already ambitious. But today we're taking our ambition yet to another level to make sure that we become independent of Russian fossil fuels as quickly as possible. This whole approach is REPowerEU. So REPowerEU will help us to save more energy, to accelerate the phasing out of fossil fuel, and most importantly, to kickstart investments on a new scale. So I would say this will be the speed charging of our European Green Deal. To start with the most obvious, that is energy saving. Energy savings are the quickest and the cheapest way to address the current energy crisis. We will therefore increase the EU energy efficiency target for 2030 from 9% to 13%. Then there is the massive investment in renewable energy, the biggest task. Here we are increasing our target for 2030 from 40% renewable energy to 45% renewable energy. And in REPowerEU we come with a whole host of actions to scale up and speed up the clean energy transition. I want to give you a few examples. We are, for example, proposing to speed up the permitting procedures for renewables. As you might know, today it can last 6 to 9 years to have the permitting process ready for a wind park, for example. We now want to define go-to areas and make sure that there the permitting process is down to 1 year. The same goes for the permitting process for associated infrastructure, like grids. Or another example, we're proposing a solar rooftop obligation for commercial and public buildings as of 2025, and for new residential buildings as of 2029. I know this is ambitious, but it is realistic. We can do it. Now, the third part is the look at diversifying away to other suppliers. And here we know that when Europe acts together, it has more clout. And therefore, the 27 leaders agreed to set up a platform for the joint purchase, as you know, for gas, for LNG, and for hydrogen. And as part of our REPowerEU plan, we now propose an operational way forward. So with a joint procurement mechanism and with a joint outreach to supplying countries. This way, we can secure the energy imports we need without the competition between our member states. That is something we do not need. Now, all of this, what I just described, will of course require massive investments and reforms. We are mobilizing up to 300 billion euros. Approximately 75 billion euros will be in grants, and approximately 225 billion in loans. This will include some financing, around about 10 billion euros in missing links for gas and LNG, so that no member state is left in the cold, and up to 2 billion for oil infrastructure in view of stopping the shipment of Russian oil. All the rest of the financing, that's 95% of the overall financing, will go into speeding up and scaling up the clean energy transition. Now, we need to do the same on defense, and that was the second package of today. We all know that the return of warfare to Europe has underlined the effects of years of defense underspending. We have basically lost a decade in defense investment because of all these cuts. However, and that's good news, member states are now reversing this trend. They have announced an additional 200 billion euros in defense spending over the next few years. Now, we must keep the momentum, but more important is not only the money that will be invested, but how it will be invested. And therefore, we must make sure that the money is spent in a coordinated way, that it addresses the capability gaps we obviously have, that Europe has identified, be it in the European Union or in NATO, and that the way of spending strengthens our European defense industrial basis in the long term. So we ask for joint procurement because joint procurement is better, operationally for our armed forces, because this strengthens the interoperability between the armed forces. It's better financially because of the economy of scale. And it's better industrially because it strengthens our industrial basis here in the European Union, and it strengthens our vast network of innovative SMEs. For that, we will set up immediately a task force with member states to coordinate the immense needs of procurement and replenishment right away. This task force will be accompanied by a financial incentive instrument to purchase jointly. The experience is if you nudge the member states by a financial incentive instrument, it's easier really to go forward together. And finally, in fall, we will propose a regulation to make sure that joint procurement benefits from full VAT exemption. This will strengthen our independence and resilience, and at the same time, it will strengthen NATO too. Finally, my third and last topic, I want to come back to Russia's war on Ukraine. This war is the driver of this acceleration in our efforts to strengthen Europe's resilience. We know that Ukraine is on the front line and defending our European values. We will continue to be by their side throughout this war and when they rebuild their country. And this is the third issue I wanted to inform you about today. We are proposing for Ukraine to top up the significant short-term relief provided until now with a new exceptional macrofinancial assistance to Ukraine of up to 9 billion euros in 2022. This is for the short term, for the relief right now to support the government, budget support. But of course, we need to think about the day after and the wider reconstruction efforts. And here the European Union has a responsibility, and the European Union has a strategic interest in leading this reconstruction effort. As you know, the EU leaders invited us to reflect on this at their meeting in Versailles, and that's what we did. And today we come with principles how to build such a facility or such a platform. The reconstruction principles should combine investment and immediately reforms. In time, these combination of investment and reform will support Ukraine in pursuing its European path, so it's very important for the accession process. It should be a future-proof plan, fully reflecting the needs identified by Ukraine. The plan would tackle key reforms in areas such as anti-corruption, administrative capacity, the rule of law, the independence of the judiciary, you name it. And of course, it should be firmly anchored in the green and digital transitions and the fundamental European values. But of course, the European Union would and should not be the only one contributing to this effort. And this is why we are proposing a reconstruction platform as part of this plan. So a platform jointly led by Ukraine and the European Commission, and bringing thus together the member states with their contribution, bilateral donors, international donors, the international financial institutions, and other like-minded partners. The aim of this platform would be to agree on the direction of travel and to ensure maximum synergies of all efforts. These investments will help Ukraine to emerge stronger and more resilient from the devastation caused by Putin's army. So today is another milestone on our way to more Europe. This is about seizing the moment, and this is our moment. Thank you very much.